Carmen, you need to unmute.
Okay, all right. Good morning, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's so good to be here on such a beautiful day. And it's nice to be in this screen, looking at you and getting a little nervous and self-conscious about all of you looking at me, but that's okay. I just want to welcome you to this wonderful service or gathering, whatever we call it. And just a little reflection on this times that we're living. I mean, I just get caught up in the news and all that is happening. I mean, for one good news side, it's we're almost out of this pandemic, and life is getting to feel normal. On the other hand, the news of this war in Europe and Russia and Ukraine, I mean, they're really, really worrisome and concerning to all humanity. It's unbelievable in this time that we're in this century, we're still going through this war, and we're not going to analyze the causes, but all we're going to say is that we're going to send love, and we will continue sending love, and we believe in love, and we know that the universe is listening. There is more consciousness in this world, and we can see it in this wonderful group, all of us gathering together in this little Baja, but yet we have people from all over the country. I mean, isn't this amazing? This is one of the benefits of this pandemic that left us this opportunity to gather in a group from all places in the screen and have you all in front of me, or in front of each other, sharing our thoughts and inspiration and lifting up our spirits with positive thoughts and inspiration and words. I mean, I am very excited about our speaker today, Wade. Welcome, and thank you for agreeing to share your inspiration. I mean, and your kindness and compassion really, really speak to me. So I'm looking forward to your message, and I'm sure everybody else in this group is doing so. So welcome, and here we go again, Rose.
And John?
Good morning, everybody. I see some of my colleagues, my classmates from leadership training. We had our leadership training session just 2 weeks ago on Monday and Tuesday. And we're staying in touch, which is one of the unique qualities about this program. Now, the name leadership training it's so bland, really. It's not very revealing. And I'm not about to invent some kind of a jazzy title for it. I'll just hit you with the punchline. The punchline is that it makes a difference. It is life-changing. That's how impressive and important this program is. Freeman, Yella, Tom, and Anna conspire in a very positive way to put you at ease. Their person-to-person handling of how conversations go and how challenges are presented is gentle. It's humane. So totally different from any, call it a management environment that I've been in. I've been in management most of my life. This is very different. So I was thinking about, how does it compare? Why is this different? So I've had the good fortune of going to management training programs throughout my life. I worked for big companies. They recognize the value and the benefit of sending managers off to training programs. And if you've ever applied to a big company, one of the things they do is they interview you. And if they're really interested, they send you off to see a shrink. They have psychological profile. And you go and you meet with somebody in the nearest big city, and they talk to you, and you take typically a written test. And what they're looking to do, they're screening for certain key qualities that they want. And what they want typically is the competitive nature, assertiveness, if not outright aggressiveness. They're looking for people that can win. And therein lies the problem. Most of us have grown up in that kind of an environment if you've been in business. And that's the way we do things. So what this program does is it modifies a lot of very good habits, a lot of very good things that managers do. It kind of shapes them, kind of rounds off the edges. So you wind up being in an environment where you're not critical, you're supportive, where you're not abusive, and management can be abusive. And all of these new practices, these new things, put you into a frame of mind, a frame of reference that is much more well-suited to community work. So our session leaders brought us around with an open hand, palm up, rather than the fist. And that's one of the key signals we learned in this class. And we applied better methods like, being helpful and not critical, supportive, not judgmental, trusting and intimate. In fact, one of the peculiar qualities about this whole session that I remarked about, we got there Monday morning, and within 2 or 3 hours, we are so totally comfortable and observing the fact that this is a really intimate setting where each of us getting up willingly, talking about stuff going on inside of us, talking about the challenges we face with no concern at all about anybody being judgmental. So it put us all very much at ease. At the end of the first day, we all went home. We had a homework assignment. The next morning, Tuesday morning, we all gathered. And it was remarkable. Everybody said the same thing. I was so tired last night, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do the homework assignment. So everybody got up early and they came in prepared. But the twist was that everybody arrived at a point where I don't think they expected to be. Things just kind of gelled like magic on that Tuesday. And all of a sudden we figured out where our challenges were. And we talked about those challenges. And now we are actively working on them. We each have a partner and we meet weekly. And that's what carries this thing forward. That's what gives this momentum and a very good chance of being ultimately successful. So life-changing, that's it. And I urge that if you get the opportunity, by all means, take this course, this vanilla bland title, leadership training. It's excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, John. And now I'm going to go ahead and share the screen as our meditation today is on a song that was written over 50 years ago. And John Lennon said when he wrote it that it's an ad campaign for peace. And so I'd like to ask all of us just to imagine a world of peace.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker. And I have actually 2 pages of introduction, and I think he says it so much better than I could that I would just like to turn the program over to Wade. He has presented to over 200,000 people across 15 countries, and we are very fortunate to have him talk about his book, Creating Destiny, and his inspiring journey. So welcome, Wade.
Great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Sure appreciate it. I would like to first start and ask what the group is. I don't know exactly why this group is together. I'm kind of curious about that and fascinated why I see so many happy faces here. So Rose, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, we're called Not Church. And actually, I think, Anna, if you would, I would love it if you, since you were from the very beginning, and I'm a relative newbie, would you be willing to share what our group is?
Of course, it's my pleasure to do that, Wade. Yes, we came up with the name Not Church. We're in our 11th year, actually, of meeting once a month. And we're in the umbrella organization that we call Tranquilo, which means tranquil in Spanish. And we're in right outside, we're sort of centered right outside a little town called La Misión in Baja, Mexico. And we're right on, I don't know if you can see the ocean, it's right behind me. We're right on the ocean. And it's a very unique community. Leslie and I were talking the other day, and her observation was that we have a greater proportion of people, how did you say it, Leslie, who like care? People who are inner adventurers and people who have a humanitarian focus. So I think there are 500 or 600 people who come and go from this community in various ways. And this is our once a month Sunday morning gathering that is now on Zoom since COVID. So that's who we are. It's a neighborhood community, but the neighborhood extends about 50-mile radius and now all over the place.
Well, that's great. Outstanding. No, this is great. Thank you very much for the explanation and the details. I can see now why everybody's looking so happy here. It's excellent. Thank you. I will go ahead and start with my presentation. I'm here to talk about my book, Creating Destiny. Actually, let me show you a picture of it. This is Creating Destiny. I wrote this book about a year ago. The original idea was that I was going to write a biography about myself and hand this down to my children. So my children and future generations will get a glimpse of their ancestry and history. But as I was doing so, and I started this probably about 10, 15 years ago, it was a very slow process. I didn't really have a lot of aspirations to finish it up. I figured, well, if I get close to the end of my life, then I'll go ahead and try and do something about it. Well, my now wife, we married 3 years ago, came to me. She goes, you should probably write this book and do it quickly. And you should do it not just for your family, but to inspire other people, because you've had a very fascinating and unique life and a life of service. So I agreed. And believe it or not, I'm in Rotary and I travel around the world doing humanitarian projects. I actually wrote this book on my telephone during air flight. I had nothing else to do. So instead of watching movies, I would just peck away on my phone. Ended up with about 700 pages of manuscripts, just different stories that I was talking about. And I handed it to my wife when I figured I had enough stories. She then took that and condensed it down to a book of about 240 pages. And that's what the end of the product was. The title of it is Creating Destiny. And what I did in the book and the way the name came about was I took a look at what I started with in life. I had no aspirations of really going anywhere in that one. And so the book talks about those different stages in my life and different steps and different directions, sometimes 180 degrees to end up where I am today. And that's where the book talks about the hardships and overcoming a lot of the hardships and some of the benefits and some of the opportunities I had that I capitalized on. Most of it, well, the first part of the book, it's in 3 parts: growing, living, and giving. Those are the 3 sections. Growing up talks about my youth, my ancestry. I'm of Japanese descent. I'm Japanese American, 3rd generation. And it starts off with the World War II times. So my parents and grandparents were interned in camp and posted in Arizona. From there, I talk about my heritage, where that came from and what that part of my life, my ancestry and the lessons that I learned have formed me into what I am today. Starting with my father was a firstborn son. I was now the firstborn son of the firstborn son, so a 3rd generation firstborn child, son. And in Japanese tradition, I ended up, well, I'm supposed to be the leader of the family. I was groomed, quote, groomed to lead this family, no matter what the hardships were, no matter what my age was. And I remember even as a child of 11 or 12 years old, making decisions that would affect even my aunts and uncles that were, they're a full generation ahead of me. My grandfather took me in, and I'm glad he did, because he was he was my first mentor and my advisor. He would take me out after camp. He was recruited by Avery Brundage, then president of the Olympics. And he had an estate in Montecito. So my family ended up after camp going to Santa Barbara in Montecito and taking care of his estate. My grandfather took a lot of pride in it. He had never been a gardener. He was a farmer in the Imperial Valley, a melon grower. And one day I was about 3-4 years old. He took me to the gardens because Brundage was coming back. And as we walked the gardens, we walked the entire scope of the mansion. And as we left, he goes, "I want you to look back, Wade. Tell me what you see." So I looked back. I said, "I see an impeccable garden. Every hedge was trimmed perfectly. There was not a leaf out of place, no weeds anywhere. The gravel and the soil even had rake marks in it in a pattern. I mean, it was immaculate." So I told him, I says, "It's beautiful. I don't see anything else that you could have done to make it look any nicer." He goes, "This is your first lesson." He goes, "No matter what you do in life, you always leave things better than you found it. So I took that to heart, and that has been kind of my motto ever since. As I started going into school, I decided, well, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I decided to go into gardening and landscaping. So that's what I did. And in doing so, I ended up becoming a landscape contractor. One of the jobs I received when I was younger, starting out my business, was I was awarded a contract to do a landscape in a project, housing project for underprivileged people, those people that just couldn't afford it. And as I was working there, there was 4 kids that came up to me, and these 4 kids would hang out with me every day. They were about 10 years old to 14. And I go, aren't you guys supposed to be in school? And they said, well, yeah, we are, but we kind of got kicked out. We were told not to come back. We were expelled from school. So because of that, he goes, we have no place else to go. So we'd like to hang out with you, just talk to you and see what we could do. And I said, well, if you're going to hang out with me, I got a job to do. So you can work. Go pick up that rake over there and shovel and get to work, and I'll pay you guys something. Of course, they didn't do much, and so I paid them very little. But at the end of the day, I would go out and practice on my motorcycle. And jumping on the motorcycle, I would ride around. And one day they said, could we go with you? I said, fine. I took them with me. He gave them each a ride around this track, took them over the jumps, the turns, everything. They loved it. They had a great time. And as we moved forward, they said, you know, we would like to become a racer. We want to be just like you. We want to become a motorcycle racer. And I go, well, unfortunately, guys, I don't think you could do it. The cost is going to be too much. We can't afford a motorcycle. But I tell you what, you may want to look at BMX, bicycle motocross, because that's the new hot sport. And this is back in the late 70s. So they agreed to it. I ended up, believe it or not, because of them, I looked into buying a bicycle shop, and I actually opened up a bicycle shop so I could buy bikes for these kids. And I bought them 2 bikes. I told them, I said, you work for it, and got 2 bikes for them, bought them helmets, bought them pads, whatever they needed to race. And I signed them up one day at the local racetrack to race in a beginner class. They loved it. They all took turns. They're using the 2 bikes. So we had one for smaller ones, one for the bigger kids. Of course, they got beat up. They were barely learning how to ride a bike, but they had a blast that day. And so we took them around, did a couple more races. One day there was a Father's Day race, and they go, wait, you got to race. It's a Father's Day race. So I go, okay, well, I signed up for the race, ended up winning that race. Never been on a bike before. And one of the gentlemen that I beat came over to me and he goes, there's going to be a new class in the nationals. It's going to be for the old guys, 26 and over. So I signed up. I said, well, that sounds great. 6 months later, I was in Las Vegas at the Grand Nationals for the opening of this 26 and over age group bracket. And I ended up not only signing up, but I ended up winning that race. So I became a one-time national champion. I then decided, well, this was kind of neat. So I actually designed and built my own bike. I said, if I'm going to defend my title, I have to have better equipment than what I've got right now. So I designed and built the Nomura bike. That year I released it, which was the following year of winning my national title. I entered my bike in six different categories with 6 different riders that I had sponsored. That year, we swept all 6 classes of that with my bike. So never been done before and never happened again. But the bike ended up being pretty successful. I went on to win 5 total national titles. And decided then at that time, I said, well, amateur title is great, but it's time to turn pro. So at the ripe age of 30, I turned professional. And I will tell you this, my best ranking was 12 in the world, but I was definitely outgunned and outmanned. These guys are racing that. My competitors were anywhere from 19 to 22 years old. These guys were monsters. They were huge, strong, fast, and they rode better than me. So needless to say, I didn't have much going for me. I ended up in Las Vegas, of all places. And in the national, I went from a 4th place start, ended up passing everybody on a jump, but I hit some soft powder. And that launched me 16 feet in the air, ended up coming down, landing on my shoulder, breaking my collarbone, breaking my shoulder blade, breaking 2 ribs and puncturing my lungs. So that put me in the hospital, needless to say. I was eager to get back. I said, well, this isn't going to put me down. So that next weekend, I went from Vegas to home, jumped on my bike. The minute I got home, said, okay, well, it's time to start training again. I had one arm in a sling, and I started riding. Of all the luck, I crashed again, of course, landing on that same shoulder. So a week later, I broke my collarbone for a second time. I said, well, that wasn't too bright, so let's give it a little more time to heal. So I gave it almost a month, 3 more weeks. I said, okay, I think it's good enough now. I could actually put my hand on the handlebar. So I went out and decided to race a local race. Went into the very first turn in the lead and crashed, broke my collarbone for the 3rd time. So in 1 month, I broke my collarbone 3 times. I decided at that time that, you know what, racing isn't any fun, not like it used to be. So I retired from the sport, literally walked away from it. It was 2001 when somebody approached me from the Japanese American National Museum, and they said, you know, with your story, we've heard a lot about you. We would like to induct you into our Hall of Fame as an athlete. So at that time, 42 Japanese American athletes were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I was one of them. And the media was there. They had Channel 5 News, and they actually did interviews on all of us. And they asked me, what did I attribute my success to? And I started thinking about it. I go, wow, you know, I says, couldn't think about everything, but I remember working out 16 hours a day. I remember riding on that bike just about every day I could. I also, to get the national points, was able to literally drive, because I was on a low budget, drive my bike on my car as long as 48 hours with no sleep to get to a racetrack to race. And so I was able to cover pretty much all of the Western coast on a weekend ride. I would leave literally Friday morning to get there to the race on Saturday morning, race all day Saturday, sleep for 4 hours, race all day Sunday, jump on the road and be home for dinner on Monday with my family. So all these things that came into my mind, factoring in what was it? Then it hit me. I realized exactly why I had that edge. And I never realized it before that time. It was because of the people that believed in me. My mother, my father, my wife, my kids, my friends, my cousins, my brothers and sisters, all of them had sacrificed so I could stay on the road and race all those races. If it weren't for them, I would never have been on the road. And if it weren't for them, I would have never been able to attain even one national title. So I had to kind of take a reassessment of myself and go, you know what, as great as I was, I would have never been there had it not been for the friends and family that supported and believed in me. And because of that, I decided I would always give back. If somebody had a dream, a vision, I didn't want to hold them back. I wanted to be part of it so they could attain those dreams that they put forward for them. I talked to you about the 5 kids. My mistake. There's actually 5 of these kids that I worked with in the project. Of those 5 kids that I talked about, unfortunately, 2 of them ended up committing suicide at a very young age. A 3rd one was put in jail. He's still in jail. He's a multiple felony offender. And the other 2 kids I completely lost track of. So I looked at that, and there's nothing I could do about it now. But reflecting back, I realized that I had the ability to influence the rest of their life. And because of that, I'm trying to dedicate as much of my life to service as I can, helping those and helping others. So that's part of my history, and that's part of where BMX came from. Again, it came from no place. It ended up moving me up in the world, and it was a pretty amazing thing. I also talk in my book about service, giving back, and this is the 3rd part of it. Of all these things that I've done and talked about, one of the, I would say the best organization I've ever been involved with is Rotary International. Rose knows me from that part of it also. And in Rotary, I ended up joining it only because my late wife made me join. Didn't really want to join, but it was a service organization. I told her I was too busy, but I joined anyways. And about 2 years, a little over 2 years into being a member of Rotary, I was asked to go on a water project mission to Mexico, central Mexico, state of Michoacan, the city of Pátzcuaro. So some of you may have known the area. There, I actually worked on putting a water project together. And it was at that time, at that moment, that when we did the water project and I completed it, I realized what it was all about giving to others. Because the day that we inducted that water system, that well and the filtered water so that people could have drinking water, there was 120 people that were there. The gentleman walked up to me, and he was the, quote, sheriff of the village. He came over, shook my hand, and I remember that because his hands felt like tree bark from working in the field so much. And he looked me in the eye, and he says, "Thank you for bringing us water. For us, water is life. Thank you for bringing us life." And that was the one moment that I realized that no matter what I did, it was the unselfish giving that gave others an opportunity for a better life. And that was my quote Rotary moment. That was the one moment where I realized I could do a lot to make other people in other places a lot better, strangers that I may never met. And because of that, I've dedicated my life to service, especially through Rotary. This was the giving back and the way everything put together. Now, along with Rotary, another twist in life, another creating my destiny, was in my community. I live in Carpenter, California. I love the place. I ended up settling here. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, but Carpinteria was nice and small. Loved it here. So I settled here in 1976 and raised my family in Carpinteria. One day, a group of people came up to me. This is 2000 actually. And they said, "Wade, we would like to see you run for city council." And I go, "Wait a minute, city council?" I said, "Where did that come from? I'm not even involved with politics. I don't even believe in it." I said, "You guys got to come up with a better reason other than just asking me." Well, 4 different groups came up to me and asked me to run for city council. So finally, and I said no all 4 times. Finally, the 4th one came and I go, "Why do you want me to run?" And they said, "Our city's in terrible shape. We have a city council of 5 and they fight all the time. They cannot make a decision and they're fighting and they're causing actually a lot of controversy on the streets. So people in the streets are now fighting. We have a divided city on everything and any item that comes forward on that." So I said, "Well, you still haven't answered my question on why you want me to run." They said, "Well, we've watched you. We watched you throughout your career here, as long as you've been in Carpinteria. You are, from what we've seen, the hardest working man that we have in the city. You have high ethical standards and you have the integrity to get things done when you say you're going to get things done. And because you're Rotarian." Well, they threw the Rotary card at me and said, "Well, because of that, yes, I will run for office, but you have to realize you will not find any track of me anywhere in politics because I don't even believe in voting." And that was politics. I thought was a broken system, but I did it anyways and I ended up winning by a record margin. And since that time, I've won 3 more elections. Each time I've surpassed the prior record. So the support is there for me. I am now serving my 2nd term as the mayor of the city of Carpinteria. And kind of unprecedented, we are appointed within the council. And in the 50 years of the 65 years that the city's been around, no person has ever been appointed a 2nd term as mayor until me. So that's the confidence that they instilled in me. And because of that, like I said, the destiny was I had never planned on being in politics, but now here I am leading a city. So I thought that was an important concept I would also like to share with you. I've done projects throughout. Some of the great projects I've done was in Puerto Rico, where we are looking at agricultural work, trying to change that whole island. Also in Haiti, where we have a plan in 15 years to bring water to the entire country of Haiti. It's about a $2 to $3 billion project, but we're initiating it and starting it off right now. I would like to tell you the other part because I want to leave some time for question and answer. There's one other thing that my grandfather told me, and this is what I'm going to leave you with, is he said, no matter what you dealt with, he goes, life's going to give you the goods and the bads. He goes, what you do with the bad is going to be what sets your character. Thinking about this, he goes, when something bad happens to you, you have 2 choices. You could feel sorry for yourself and you could dwell on what just happened to you because you were singled out just by chance. You were singled out because of the fact that you were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Your other choice is you could take a look at that negative, look for the positive, see what positives actually come out of that negative, because even the greatest negative will have a positive in it. And I realized that when I lost my first wife to cancer. I said, well, it was a great life. We were married, believe it or not, 44 years. I was engaged when I was 16 years old. So we had a good life. But when I looked at it in the life we had, feeling, well, there goes half my life, I realized that had we not started a family and been together for such a long time, we would have never been able to achieve what we did or been together for that long. 44 years is a long time. I mean, I was barely 60 here in my early 60s when she passed away. And because of that, the positive was I got to spend a lot of time with her, and the kids were all grown up, and she got to see the grandkids. I mean, that's something unique. And so that was the positive that I found in that. Also was the fact that who would have thought that this would happen to me? But it did. And I realized it was a great life. I had a life of a woman that loved me, and we had a great time together. We had a great life together. And you know what? That was something that I appreciated. I never realized that there would be somebody else out there for me. So 3 years ago, I met my other wife, my new wife. She's from Australia, believe it or not. We met at a Rotary convention with no plans, either one of us, of ever being connected to somebody else. And because of that, I looked at that as one of those things that just happened. It's part of your life. So I named my book, titled it Creating Destiny, because no matter what happens to you in your life, you could take the good and make it better, but you could also take the bad and make that better. Try and change that. In creating destiny, looking at my life, I never thought I would be a BMX national champion, famous bicycle builder, because I had never done that before in my life. I never thought I would be in politics, leading a city, because I never planned on doing that anytime in my life. So all these things come together. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to inspire people like you to take a look at what you've got and make your life better. Change that. Share your life with others, because a life of giving is a life that is worth living, literally. I've seen this time and time again, and a little bit of help that you can give somebody else goes miles. Ideally, you're helping them will make them somebody that would be a disciple of yours that would help somebody else out. So with that, I did want to save time for questions and answers. I think I touched on a lot of it. Again, I just gave you a condensed version of the 68 years of my life. So thank you. We have any questions?
Thank you, Wade. If there are any questions, you can go ahead and raise your hand. So anybody got a question?
Well, and if not, and if I don't see any questions, I'm going to start popping out some more stories for you. So yeah, maybe something that didn't make the book that was edited out.
Oh, Wade, I thought that your story one time that you told about growing up as a Japanese American and facing bullying and prejudice, I think that's a kind of a universal story for many people.
True. It is true. And again, back when I was younger and we were being discriminated against, I realized it's right after the war. I always wished that, well, I didn't see myself as Japanese until I looked in the mirror. And when I did look in the mirror, I realized I was different from everybody else. And I always wanted to be like everybody else. I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be different from them. I wanted to be like one of them. So I hoped that I would be able to someday conform in, to be white, basically, is what I wanted to do. And that blending in just never worked out. It wasn't white. But I did realize later on in life that, you know what, being Japanese, having that ancestry, having those things taught to me by my grandfather, my father, and my relatives, I realized I wouldn't change it for the world. I became exactly who I wanted to be, and didn't want to change a thing. So rather than being conforming in to fit in with everybody else, I realized I'll never fit in. So I might as well do something good with what I got and be a standout, not because of what I look like, but because of what I accomplished. Mary.
Yeah, I just want to say how much I really enjoyed and appreciated your presentation and your life story. And I think it's a really important lesson. And the way you put it was taking something that's bad and turning it around. I mean, I've tried increasingly to see, quote, bad or negative things as opportunities, right? as opposed to something, oh, why is this happening? It's happening for me, as the saying goes, not to me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Very good, Mary. You got the lesson there.
And I just a little short story that's sort of in the same vein. Years and years ago, I was attending an interfaith breakfast, and a Baptist minister was speaking. He was one of the speakers, and I love the way he put it. He said that there was a person, a man, who was so perturbed, and he said, Lord, why have you made my life so hard, all these obstacles, and this person here has just got an easy time, and it just doesn't seem fair. Why me? And the Lord answered, he said, well, did you ever stop to consider that maybe you were able to overcome those obstacles and keep moving on, and this other person wasn't?
That's right.
Yeah.
Very true.
Well, I'm going to say thank you to Wade, and I'm going to ask Winifred if she would give us some words of inspiration, and then Anna will give us some announcements.
Certainly, Rose. Good morning, everyone. Well, we've certainly had a lot of inspiration already, and I'm just going to share a few words I wrote this week to share with you, and I'll just read it to you. It's easy to feel hopeless, that there's nothing we can do. Our fragile earth is reeling and all has gone askew. Darkness has invaded with destruction on its mind, bombs and devastation raining down on humankind. It is easy to feel desperate, watching news of bitter war, chaos of such magnitude searing to our core. Has history taught us nothing? Must we take this course again? This cycle of pure madness, fueled by greed, beyond our ken. But wait, let's breathe, regroup our thoughts, recharge our optimism. Our purpose is to hold the thoughts that bring to life our vision. When things are at their seeming worst, take note of all the good that suddenly emerges and appears just where it should. Mothers with their children displaced in foreign climes, scooped up by caring strangers overriding wartime crimes. Compassion in its truest form is already overflowing, and kindness, taking solid root, contagiously keeps growing. And so we watch from far away these deeds of love unfolding, the finest of humanity displayed for our beholding, reminding us we are all one. We're each to all connected. When some of us are hurting, we all are thus affected. So how can we contribute to make this war rescind? We want more than the answer that is blowing in the wind. Let's harness what we know within, the power that is our life force, our energy from Mother Earth that gives us constant recourse. We who know, who understand how energy can travel further than the brightest star and faster than a missile, let's send it where it needs to be, so lighter than a feather, burdens can be lifted and families back together. Let every thought be that of love, for Russian soldiers too, that they may find their truth within and further war eschew. Let's hold the truth that miracles can happen every day when like minds flood the universe with love in full array. Let's harness up our energy and see this war deflected. The more we spread our gratitude, new calm will be detected. Let our emanating light force keep on glowing in the dark. Let us be the peace we pray for. Let us be the love we spark. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Winifred. That was so beautiful. And Anna, you've got some Tranquilo information for us.
Well, I have some good news. I thought everybody would like to know something that your participation in Tranquilo, the different programs, including Not Church, something that has come about. We got an enthusiastic note of gratitude this week from the very first speaker after we formed Tranquilo. So last January, the first Not Church speaker, you remember Monica Chiappa? Her talk was so interesting that we asked her to, if she would like to create like the first course that we were offering as part of Tranquilo. And she came up with a beautiful 12-week course that she called The Power of You. And during the course, it transformed to The Power of Us. And it was absolutely beautiful. Monica told a friend of hers about it, who's a teacher in Mexico. And she was invited, Monica was invited to give the course for a bunch of teachers over this last year. And she's just gotten a contract to present courses in all of Mexico, in the educational system of Mexico. And that's her dream come true. She lives in Los Angeles for 20 years or so, which is where I know her from, but she is a native Mexican and she has always wanted to be in this position to bring this more humanitarian education to her country. And apparently there's also a possibility of her doing it in other Latin American countries as well. So Monica is just so grateful. And I told her that I would share her gratitude with all of you because it's our whole community coming together to support this that gave her the opportunity to create something that now is going to make a difference in our adopted country. And also another announcement is that as part of Monica's course, she brought in a friend and a woman who is who teaches forgiveness, Debbie Roth. And Debbie did one of the segments of Monica's course on forgiveness. And it was so effective. So many of us took it and are aware of this, but it was so effective that we asked her to present a workshop on forgiveness. And she did that. And now she is giving a 3-month, she's created a 3-month group on forgiveness. And it starts next Saturday. And she already has several people enrolled, but if there's anyone in our community who would like to join that, she'd love to hear from you. There's information on the Tranquilo Facebook page, or you can let me know. And I'll send you a link to get in touch with Debbie. So that's another thing that our community has supported and is expanding the caring that we have for each other and for our community here is expanding. So thank you all so much. Wade, thank you. And thanks for all who are participating.
Oh, and thank you all. I just went back to gallery view so you can all see each other. And my heart was touched. I put Wade's website in the chat box so that if any of you want to learn more about him, see more about him, it's wadenomura.com. And his book is also there if you're interested in getting his book. And I noticed the chat that everyone is saying thank you for your inspiration, Wade. And we will post the recording on the tranquilobaja.com website so that anyone that you talk to that you might want to share, tell them to go to that website. And Anna, I think that maybe there'll be a piece about the upcoming forgiveness thing on the website as well, so people can look there.
I'm not sure, Zenaida, I don't know. I think it's just on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, it starts on Saturday, so it's coming up pretty quickly.
Okay, and for all the speakers, John for sharing the leadership workshop, for Carmen's welcome, for Winifred's beautiful, lovely poem. Thank you so much. And Wade and everyone that's here, thank you for being here. And Wade, just thank you for sharing your inspirational journey. It just touches my heart, and I know it touched many as well. So with that, anyone got something that they just absolutely are bursting to say? We've got 2 minutes left. Well, then I just want to say applause to everyone.
Yeah,
And love, and let's imagine peace.
yes. Thank you. Hi, Don. Good
Bye.
to be back there. Hi,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don.
Thank you, Wade.
Bye,
Thank
Don.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.